Hello there. Welcome to episode 72 of Coffee Break Blogging. Today we're going to be talking about 7 strategies for getting more opt-ins to your email list. But before we jump into that, I want to quickly give a shout out to Miss McLean on iTunes. She has posted a quick review for me inside of iTunes for Coffee Break Blogging, and I always appreciate and want to show my acknowledgement to those reviews. And what she said was, I've been blogging for a little over a year now, and wish I'd found David sooner. The podcasts are short and sweet, but packed full of helpful information with easy to accomplish action steps. Definitely a must for those looking to increase their web presence and customer base. So thank you very much to Miss McLean. I don't know your first name, but thank you very much. And for everybody else listening, I would highly appreciate those reviews inside of iTunes. Really helps me out quite a bit in all the ways you probably heard on other podcasts. And I've actually finally set up a shortcut link. I don't know why I forgot about this, but that's blogmarketingacademy.com/iTunes. Makes it nice and easy. It'll direct you right into iTunes for the Coffee Break Blogging Podcast, and you can go ahead and post a review for me, and I will definitely acknowledge your review on the episodes of the show. Okay, so without getting into too much more, let's go right into the actionable steps of this episode, the 7 strategies for getting more opt-ins to your email list. Now, step number 1, this one is easy, and that is to create an effective lead magnet to begin with. Now, I'm not going to cover all of this ground again because we covered it in a 2-part episode, starting with episode 70. So if you go back to episode 70 and episode 71, we cover how to create a perfect lead magnet, and we cover it quite in depth. But the thing is, those strategies that we talked about in those last 2 podcasts are very important to getting people onto your list, because these are the kinds of lead magnets that are going to stand out. They're the kinds of lead magnets that are actually going to help drive sales to you as well once you put the funnel in place after these things. But it is very important that we set up these lead magnets in a specific way so that we get specific kinds of people with a specific thing that we can help them solve. And I say that word specific very often because, again, if you go back to episode 70 and 71, you'll realize how important that specificity really is when you create those lead magnets. The good news is that they're actually going to be shorter and easier to create than what you probably thought in terms of these big 7-day courses or these big honker ebooks. Those things actually don't make the best lead magnets. The best ones are a lot easier to make. Okay, so I'm not going to repeat that ground. Go back, listen to episode 70 and 71 if you haven't done so already. Let's jump right into our second strategy. Our second strategy is to position your opt-in forms in the highest converting locations on your blog. So if you look at the layout of your blog, most of you probably are going to be using whatever layout your theme originally came with. And I understand because many of my listeners are not super geeky, and that's, so I understand that there might be some issues that come into play here when it comes to actually modifying our blogs to look a certain way. But I want to give you what the ideal is here, and then you can go out and find themes that give you these options. I'm a big fan of a lot of the modern child themes that go along with the Genesis framework, and you can find that at studiopress.com. But with those themes, there's a lot of options in there. So for example, if you want to flip the sidebar to the other side of your blog, most of those themes allow you to do that with the click of a button. And so it's just so much easier. So let's go into real quick the highest converting locations on the typical blog theme. The first one is the very top. And we're talking about, it could be above the logo area, above the header. So sometimes we see these floater bars that kind of sit there, or it can be underneath that. So for example, if you go to the Blog Marketing Academy right now and you click on any of my blog posts, you'll see a big full width opt-in for the blog monetization model. And it's right there. It's on every single blog post, and it's pretty damn noticeable. You're pretty much not going to miss it. And that's a very high converting location right at the top. Now, the second one is in your sidebar, but here's an important component. You want the opt-in, and it should be a lead magnet, by the way, not a subscribe to my newsletter kind of a deal, because that's a waste of time. But you want this opt-in to be at the top of your sidebar, And then the second thing is you want to test the idea of having your sidebar on the other side of your page. So most people put it on the right. You might want to consider testing it out on the left. So you put your content on the right side, you put your sidebar on the left side. Here's the thing, that left-oriented sidebar falls right into the eye path of people when they land on your site. We're all used to reading books from left to right, and top down. So if you put your opt-in form in that location where we naturally gravitate, which is going to be the top left, you're going to get more opt-ins typically. Now, there is some debate here in terms of, do you want to emphasize the opt-in versus the content? But the thing is, personally, if your blog is designed right and you've got a good size headline and good white space, putting your sidebar on the left side is not going to detract from your content. People are still going to notice that content. They're still going to read it. So I find that it definitely helps opt-in rates. So those are the two top ones. And then the last one would be at the end of your blog post, you should have another opportunity to opt in. Okay. Strategy number 3, you want to use squeeze pages. Okay, you want to use squeeze pages. Now, squeeze page is a single purpose page designed to get an email subscriber. So you'd remove all the other clutter. You don't have your top menu. You don't have your sidebar. You don't have your typical footer stuff. It's just an opt-in form, basically, with some teaser text and maybe an image on why you should opt in. You want to use these things. Now, we're going to talk more about this in episode 74 coming up. So we're not going to cover that ground. But the big thing here is that you should be using squeeze pages. And if you're concerned about how they interact with your blog, like how do you link to them? Well, you just link to them. It's not a big complicated thing. If you've got a squeeze page and it's not part of your top navigation, which is no problem with that, you just link to it where it makes sense. So if you're writing a blog post about topic X and you happen to have a really good lead magnet that would cover people interested in topic X, then you could just manually and naturally link to that squeeze page right from inside that blog post. So it's not complicated. We don't have to get into weird plugins and stuff like that. You just link to your own squeeze pages like you would anything else, okay? But we'll talk more about that in episode 74. Now, moving on to the next strategy. You want to reduce the number of fields that you're asking for. So here's the thing. In my personal opinion, your best opt-in form is simply going to ask for email, and that's it. Okay? Now, many people ask for the name. Now, the thing about the name is that, well, two things. One is the more fields that you add to the opt-in form, generally it's going to reduce your conversion rate. Now, to what degree that happens, you'll have to test it and find out. But the thing is, too, you have to ask yourself, is there really any major benefit to having their name? I mean, are you really going to address your general list by name? Most of us don't. So therefore, why do we need to ask for that information? Now, obviously, if they buy something from you, you're going to get their name because you're going to get it as part of the checkout process or what have you. Not only that, because they're actually spending money with you, they're going to give you their real name. They're not going to call themselves Mickey Mouse or something weird. I've seen some really creative names being entered into these opt-in forms in my time. So, why ask for data that you really don't need given what you're going to be sending them? And the other thing too is that, quite frankly, if you do put name fields in your outgoing emails, and keep in mind, they could call themselves Mickey Mouse, they could call themselves anything they want, and you're going to be calling them that. So does it really make you look good? Maybe not. They could literally just start pounding their keyboard into random characters for their name, and as long as they're on your list, you're going to be calling them that big bunch of characters, unless you just leave it out. And then doesn't really matter, right? Okay, so again, the summary here is reduce the number of fields that you ask for in your opt-in. Don't ask for the name unless you truly need it. And if you're going to use it, combine it. I've seen some people, they ask for first name and last name as two separate fields. That's just a stupid move. Don't do that for a general lead magnet opt-in form, okay? Next strategy number 5. This one might be a little bit debatable, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway, and that is to stop using double opt-in. Okay, so this is different than what I would use that I used to recommend. It's generally considered to be good form to use double opt-in, and to be honest with you, in some locations, it's actually a legal requirement. But if you can get away with not using double opt-in, you might want to consider doing it, because the thing is, you are losing subscribers to the double opt-in process. You're going to have people that just don't confirm themselves, even though they wanted your thing. I don't know why they don't double opt-in, but just some people just don't do it. So you're going to be killing conversions into your list. The other thing too is that if you're going through my funnel in the way that I typically teach it, there's going to be an offer on the other side of that opt-in form. But if you put a double opt-in process in the middle of that, you're just putting a big wrench through the works, and you're going to kill your conversion rates on the front end sale. Now, here's the thing. Am I saying that, you just want to have your opt-in and your list be wide open with no policing whatsoever? No, I don't. The flip side of not having double opt-in is that you want to practice very good list hygiene. And what I mean by that, the short version of it is you want to be actively tracking active subscribers, engaged subscribers, people who are actively opening and clicking on your emails, and then you want to track the people who are not. And if people have been on your list for 60 to 90 days, 90 days I would say is tops, and they have not clicked on anything and they're not engaging with your emails, you need to cut them loose. You need to stop emailing them. You need to delete them. As hard as that is, as gut-wrenching as it's going to be, you need to delete those people because they're just taking up space, costing you money, and they're just not engaged. And to be honest with you, you having that subscriber on your list, that little extra subscriber there, if they're not even reading any of your stuff, what's the point? Okay? So that's how you get around not having a double opt-in process, is that you practice really good list hygiene so that you're not just blasting bogus email addresses, because that would be a horrible practice, okay? But if you have good list hygiene, if your system is designed to automatically test for bounces and deal with bounces, and most of the good email host providers they do all this automatically, then you're going to be fine having single opt-in, and you're going to get more people on your list. All right, the sixth strategy here is to use a two-step opt-in form. Now, these two-step opt-in forms are pretty simple. It's the ones where there's no email entry field on the page, but they click a button and then you get a little pop-up, and that's where they enter the email. So that's what a two-step opt-in is. They do typically increase conversion rates. So the easiest way to do this that I've found is using the lead boxes feature of Lead Pages. Now, if you want to pay the monthly fee of Lead Pages just for that, totally up to you. I got to be honest with you. It's really the only reason I'm still with Lead Pages is the lead boxes. I'm not actually a huge fan of their landing pages because they're not that flexible. But that's just my personal opinion. I think they're great if you're not very technically inclined. But if you really are particular about what your pages look like, and I tend to be, Lead Pages tends to get on my nerves, but their lead boxes functionality is fantastic, and it's really great for two-stage or two-step opt-ins. Now, if you're using Optimized Press, they've got the overlay box in there. I forgot what the heck they call that, but they've got the whole thing built right in. So it makes life easier. And so give it a try. It does. If you go to the Blog Marketing Academy and try out getting my lead magnets from the blog itself, you'll find that they pop up. They do not, I don't have the email form right there on the blog. And so that is an example of two-step opt-in. Okay, the last strategy we're going to discuss here is what has been called the content upgrade. Seen many people using this. I think I originally saw it with the guys with Lead Pages were talking about it. I've seen other bloggers talk about it. But it's essentially the idea of having a piece of content, essentially a lead magnet, but it's designed specifically to go along with one of your blog posts. So the idea here is that they read a blog post and then they get offered some kind of a download that is very specific to that post. Like, it's not some general thing that you kind of matched in. It's literally unique to that blog post. And so, if you give a tutorial on how to do something in a blog post, and then as a lead magnet or a content upgrade, they can download a resource list to find the exact tools used to do it or something like that. You can get really good opt-ins there because it's so related. It's so related to the blog post that you're going to find your absolute best opt-in rates by using a content upgrade. Now, the best way to do these content upgrades is, quite frankly, using a two-step opt-in like we just talked about. Lead boxes is great for this because you can have standard hyperlinks, just standard links inside your blog post. But if the user clicks on one, they get an opt-in form, right then and there. And so it's so easy. So that's a really good combination. If you can take the extra time to create a content upgrade to go along with your blog post, it will convert a lot better than any sidebar opt-in form, any header opt-in, all that, because it's so tightly targeted to why they're on your site in the first place. Okay, so those are just quick 7 strategies for getting more opt-ins to your email list. Definitely go and put them to use. Some of these might be new to you, others not so much. But the thing is, if you've heard these before and you haven't done it, you have to ask yourself, why the hell not? Get busy, okay? People, we aren't talking about these things for our health. You got to go out there and do them, and that's where the results are going to come from. Okay, so real quick before I end this episode, I want to let you know that I have created a brand new landing page for this podcast, and you will find that at coffeebreakblogging.com. I always have a hard time saying that for some reason, coffeebreakblogging.com. But anyway, what you can do there, if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, you can actually find an opt-in. It's using the two-step opt-in, by the way, and where you can download the full infographic on the 7 stages of building an online business. And the reason I bring this to your attention is because this is the exact roadmap which this podcast is following. So if you want to have the general outline of the entire course that is Coffee Break Blogging, go over to coffeebreakblogging.com, scroll on down to the bottom, and opt in for the 7 stages graphic. You will get the full graphic sent to you. You can save that on your hard drive, print it out if you feel like it. And this will be kind of like your overall roadmap for everything that we're doing with Coffee Break Blogging, everything that we've done so far, and everything that we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the year. Okay? So that's coffeebreakblogging.com. And with that, thanks for listening, and I will see you in a few days with episode 73, where we're going to be talking about how to insert opt-in forms inside your blog post. It can be a little bit of a technical problem because the WordPress editor tends to screw them up. So we're going to talk about how to get those opt-in forms inside your blog post. I'll see you next time.